No pads in practice at training camp today, but we did find out who's going to play and who's not going to play in the first preseason game. We'll talk about it here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You heard exactly what she said. It's your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars, and we thank you for making us your first listen. I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast that you can find on our YouTube page that's called, you ready for it? Locked On Jaguars. That's right. Go on over to the YouTube page. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, please, and then hit the bell so that you receive notifications each and every time we drop an episode. And then wherever you get your audio podcast, you know, the ones that you listen to, not the ones that you watch, make sure you tap into that location each and every day so you do not miss an episode of Locked On Jaguars. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Shout out to the everydayers who join us every single day. And I know y'all out there because y'all let me know every time y'all see me. And you can do the same thing. You can be an everyday and you can holler at me every time you see me too. And I'll mention you on the show. How about that? All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you an injury update. That word I hate so bad, but it's a part of football. We'll talk about some injuries, particularly Deshaun Dixon, a dude that had a real good camp. He was a part of that edge depth that people always seem to want to address with me. They say, what about the edge depth, man? Should they go out and get another edge rusher? Well, they were trying to develop one, and now he's out with an ACL. We'll talk about the significance of that. They got to fill that spot. Is it going to be a veteran? Is it going to just be another person, or does that bode well for a player that's on the roster who's going to have to grow up real quick? Press Taylor will be calling plays from the sideline during the preseason. It is yet to be determined whether that will continue during the regular season, but there it is. We'll talk about Press Taylor being the play caller again and changing his point of view. Who's in and who's out for game one is where we're going to start, because I know everyone's anxious about the first preseason game. People are always anxious about the first preseason game until about the third quarter, and then they're ready for the regular season start. They don't want to see the second game. They don't want to see the third preseason game. They're just ready for it to end. People want to see real football until they realize it's not quite real football, and then they want the real thing. So it's still going to be fun. It's going to be nice to see everyone back out at the stadium. It's good to see people at the practices, believe it or not. But there's just something about game day in Jacksonville. And this Saturday, the Jaguars played the Kansas City Chiefs. And, you know, I think the fans want to see a good showing. I know they're not going to make too much of it if the Jaguars win, if the Jaguars look great. But they're going to make a whole bunch of noise if the Jaguars don't look great. You can believe that. And one of the things that might make them not look so great is, well, they got a problem that they keep having, and that's the offensive line is not healthy. And two of those guys, two of the starters on offense. In fact, I'm going to just go ahead and run it down to you. I ain't going to try to tease you to death here with it. I'm going to let you know the guys that's going to play and the guys that aren't going to play. Okay, so over on offense, I am looking at Cam Robinson and Ezra Cleveland. That's your whole left side. No, it's actually three offensive linemen that won't play, right? Cam Robinson and, well, Cam Robinson is going to play. It's Anton Harrison and Ezra Cleveland. So you're talking about right tackle and left guard. That left guard spot has been a revolving door for a while here in Jacksonville of trying to get somebody who's going to play it. So I'm assuming that is going to be Walker Little at one spot at the right tackle, making up for that, and probably – will it be either Cole Van Landen? I don't think it's going to be Cole Van Landen. Cooper Hodges plays on the right side. Maybe they move Cooper Hodges over there. It'll be interesting to see what that's going to look like, if they're going to put Cooper Hodges over there or if they're going to play Javon Foster on that side. Somebody's going to fill in. It might be Blake Hance. Somebody's going to fill in for Ezra Cleveland. I believe it's going to be Walker Little for Anton Harrison. You know, it's just a little frustrating, especially with the offensive line. You know, and I've said this ad nauseum. I've talked about it all week, in fact. One of the things that was addressed in the offseason was the fact that the offensive line, they said that those guys, the lineup that they envisioned only played together for one game. And now they're starting camp, and those guys aren't out there. It's a lot of precaution with Ezra and Anton. From what Doug Pederson said, they said Anton is doing well. He had been in the concussion protocol. So now the other guys on offense that'll be missing is Keelan Robinson, running back. He needs, and I know nobody's trying to be hurt. He's one of the guys that absolutely needs some time on the field to get properly evaluated, on kickoff returns and then third down sets. He provides a little bit of something that the other guys around him don't have. So too bad for him. So offensively, Ezra, Stephen Jones, another lineman who's a reserve, Keelan Robinson, and Anton Harrison. On defense, of course, Dewey Wingard's out battling the knee. He's going to be out for a little bit. Defensive tackle Jordan Jefferson, the rookie. Defensive tackle Eric Armstead, or defensive lineman Eric Armstead, who they signed in free agency, and Darnell Savage, who they also signed in free agency. So two of the bigger free agent signings on defense, and then a young player that they got in the fourth round are not going to play, and Dewey Wingard won't play. Now, all of those guys are important. I think Dewey would be the one that they could probably, I would say that they could probably miss him a little bit and be okay, because they do have Antonio Johnson who played some last year. But him being missing, combined with Darnell Savage not being not going, it puts a little bit of a damper on it, because you kind of want to see what your team actually does physically look like on the football field. But like I said, a lot of it's precautionary. Darnell Savage, a couple of weeks, he'll be non-contact. I mean, he'll be back with contact, and it'll be time to rock and roll. Eric Armstead's the same thing. I think what they're really trying to do, they need those guys during the regular season. So they had some nagging injuries. They had some things going on that they were recovering from in the offseason when this year started. Therefore, hold them out. I don't have a problem with it. You just want to make sure that this isn't a pattern, or it's not something that you're going to continue to see all year. It's just, you don't like it. I always said it, the injury, I never wanted to use the word on the show, but you have to sometimes. So the Jaguars are just going to have to figure out a way to recover without those guys, or a way to compete without those guys. Now they got 82 other people. If you don't include the specialists, they got 79 other guys that they're going to be given a shot to go out and make this team. I want to talk about where I think a lot of the competition is going to come from. And with all of those dudes being out, it provides opportunities, and it provides a canvas for certain players to make a name for themselves. We're going to mention that at the top of segment 2. Then we're going to get into Press Taylor and calling plays from the sideline. I know it's some people that don't even care about those last two words. The fact that I said Press Taylor calling plays is a hard pause for a lot of people, but we got to get over that, man. All right. We got to get over that one too. So we'll discuss that here as we keep going in segment number 2. We'll get to Press Taylor, and then we'll talk about who can opportunistically take over and take advantage of the game Saturday night. We'll do all of that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. Today's show is brought to you and sponsored by LinkedIn Talent Solutions. That's right. When you're hiring for a small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. It's not just a job board either. It helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else. And some of them might not even be actually looking for a job, but it's just too good to pass up the opportunity to work with you, and they'll do it. 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So it's not like you're looking on LinkedIn. If you're looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. No, it's absolutely the right place. All right. Small businesses. I had a small business use LinkedIn, and guess what? It worked out just perfectly for me, and it can do the same thing for you. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL, all one word, to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Segment number 2 here on Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day. We always thank you for making us your first listen. Your second listen should be Locked On Fantasy Football. That's right, the podcast. You get daily insight to the best fantasy draft strategies so you can win your league championship this season, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Like I said, thank you for making us your first listen. Make that your second listen of the day. All right, so people that I think are going to benefit from extended playing time to get a good look, and you can get a good glimpse into the future and see what they bring to the table. Let's start with the defensive line. And the first person, if you saw my thumbnail, I got a picture of Mason Smith, the rookie, second-round pick out of LSU. I'm ready to see him play. And he's a guy that I'm sure they want to strut out there because he didn't play a lot of football in college because he had an injury. He came back last year, but he wasn't quite himself. He had a knee injury 2 years ago, the 2022 season. He came into college as a 5-star recruit who could play end, who could play tackle. And he's really just kind of getting back into the swing of things. No big cumbersome knee brace on. He's moving around. I want to see him. I projected him to be a first-round pick a couple of years ago. I want to see him out there with Eric Armstead not playing, and then they probably going to run the starters, maybe a series or two, and then they're going to go with a bunch of young guys. But these young guys are being asked in practice to mix and match with the starters, and it's something that's being done. I remember Ryan Nielsen had mentioned it, and Doug Pederson also mentioned it. He said, look, one of the things that they failed at in the past was getting these young guys enough reps to where when they called on those young players, they actually needed those guys to be able to go into the game and help them. You can't help them if you've never been put in that situation before. So all training camp, one thing that we've all noticed is, and I forgot who I was standing by, but they were like, look at this combination. And we were looking at the combination of the players on the field. It's like you had starters and defensive line, backups at linebacker, and then it was mixed in the secondary. And it was like they're using a lot of different combinations, running guys in different spots, playing them all over the place in practice. I want to see if that stuff translates to the game. Like, are these guys going to get out there and be wide-eyed and forget about all of their assignments? Or are they going to play stiff, trying to make sure they're in the right spot? I don't think this particular defense really gives you a lot of room to be stiff because everything is in front of you. Everything is downhill. You're not letting anybody get anything easy. It's not a whole bunch of reading and reacting going on. Everything is intentional, and everything is with a purpose on this defense. So I think it's going to be hard for guys to be caught flat-footed and to see something, especially in the preseason when teams are pretty vanilla, that's going to kind of throw them off of their square a little bit. But I want to see him. Another player that I'm looking forward to seeing, well, two players at the linebacker spot. I really, really, really want y'all to pay attention to Ventrell Miller and tell me that I'm lying. Ventrell Miller looks like a dude that's going to eventually start on somebody's too deep in the NFL. I hope it's the Jacksonville Jaguars because he looks like a dude that can really, really play. He has this navigation system in his head, and he's very, very instinctive. I also want you to pay attention to the improvement of Chad Muma and see if it translates from training camp to the actual games. I did a depth chart, a way too early depth chart review yesterday, if you will, and the Jaguars will let you know, hey, man, we had to put something on paper. But the fact that they put Chad Muma as a starter and then put Orr with Devin Lloyd, I think it speaks volumes and it says a lot. Because if you got to put something on paper, you could have just put Devin Lloyd as the starter. But no, they didn't. And it's about competition. And it's also about when you hear Ryan Nielsen, as we did yesterday, talk about Chad Muma and his development and his improvement. I liked Chad Muma when he came out of college. I did. I liked him a lot. He was at Wyoming. I liked the kid. I thought he was a real attack with speed, flow to the ball linebacker. We didn't see much of that last year and the year before. And it's quite well, last year he was a rookie. We didn't see much of it. No, 2 years ago he was a rookie. But we didn't see, however long he's been here, we ain't seen him playing that way. It's like he was thinking and guessing too much instead of being an instinctive football player that I remember seeing in college. So I want to see Chad Muma. I want to see DeAndre Prince and Jarian Jones, the two rookies. And I want the folks out there to see Christian Braswell. This is another player who was listed as the starting nickelback on the way too early depth chart that we were told that ain't real important right now, but they just had to put something on paper. But they had to put something on paper, and they actually put him as the starter. So that's something. That's something to watch. But we've seen him at practice. He's number 21 this year, not number 36, but we have seen him. I think it was 36 or 34 last year. If I'm not mistaken, it was 36. Well, he's number 21. And when you get that number, it seems like that's a number for a dude that's going to make some plays, right? So he's number 21. I want y'all to pay attention to him and see if there's a tremendous difference from that perspective. On offense, it's not going to be as much about who plays because it's going to be the starters. I know everybody wants to take a look at Brian Thomas Jr. and everybody wants to see. I want them to give the ball to Travis Etienne once or twice, and then I want them to sit him down because he's the one player I believe is irreplaceable on this team because there's nobody even within his stratosphere, I don't think, on the team that is even close to him, and that would make him a pretty irreplaceable player. But it's not who's out there. It's who's on the sideline and what he's doing, and that is Press Taylor. So I get accused of being a Press Taylor apologist. That ain't at all what I am. All I've been just telling people that it's Doug Pederson's offense, and if Press Taylor ain't there, somebody else is going to be there, and they're going to be doing the same thing that Press Taylor's doing. But fans really don't want to hear that. You know, sometimes people want their pound of flesh once they get going. And that's the one thing I will say about Jaguar fans. Once they get on something, they ain't getting off of it until they get their way. Or until they forget about it. Like, remember last year, before I get back on Press, remember last year everybody was talking about edge rusher? You notice ain't nobody talking about that anymore except the fact that we're talking about depth now. They weren't talking about depth before. They were talking about people who were actually people wanted them to sign Danielle Hunter. And I was just thinking like, okay, well, what are you going to do with Trayvon? Move him inside. Well, maybe they don't want to move him inside. Maybe he had 10.5 sacks and he's just scratching the surface. You know what I'm saying? But that was one thing. And now this Press Taylor thing moved that whole edge rusher conversation totally off the table. And that's all everyone wants to talk about is Press Taylor calling plays. He's going to call him. He's going to call him. So, you know, they're going to be extremely vanilla. It's going to be preseason. So I know everybody's getting their voice box ready to get all on Press and getting the Twitter fingers ready to get all on Press Taylor, when really we have to look at this like, look, man, it's a vanilla preseason game. It ain't like Press Taylor going to come out there trying to light it up like he's, you know, Sean McVay or like he's Kyle Shanahan or North Turner or anybody in a preseason game to prove something. I think that'd be a mistake. I do think, and Trevor Lawrence even said it. Trevor says he doesn't care where Press is. He says that, you know, the play is the play, basically, and I'm going to paraphrase him a little bit, but he said it might improve communications, the calm a little bit, because, you know, we might be able to get things quicker than we did before. He said the process before, he would just tell Mike if he was seeing something or noticed something. Mike would tell Press, and Press would tell Mike something, and then whatever. You don't have to do that now. You know, they'll be over there together. I want to see the interactions when, like, there's a timeout or there's a change of possession. Who does most of the talking to Trevor Lawrence? Is it going to be Doug Pederson? Is it going to be Press Taylor? Is it going to be a combination of both? It's probably going to be a combination of both. And what it's going to be is it's going to actually be a little bit of a glimpse to the way this relationship works anyway. I'm a firm believer in Doug Pederson having his hands all over this stuff. And we got to remember, whenever the plays are called, Doug is sitting right there with a headset. He could veto it. If he doesn't like it, he could change it. He could do whatever. He probably knows what's coming before it happens. And that's why I keep telling people it's not necessarily about play calling as much as it is about the installation, the choices that they make, the plan of attack, and how they teach it more than anything else. Play calling is a whole nother game, because there have been times the Jaguars would call plays and I was like, wow, that was really, really nice. But let y'all tell it, you know, they ain't never done that. So, and every play that's been bad is one that Press called, and every play that's been good is one that either Doug called or Trevor called his own number. Now, Press Taylor ain't done nothing good. So I don't know the actual breakdown of that, and I don't see how anybody else knows either, but it's always something that folks are going to talk about. All right, injury update. We'll do that. Unfortunately, in segment number 3 here on Locked On Jaguars. Hang tight. Today's show is brought to you by Gametime, man. I got to tell you, if it's time for you to buy tickets, you got to wait till the last minute. Don't worry. Don't fret. Ain't nobody going to get mad at you for waiting till the last minute. In fact, you can wait until the game starts. And guess who's going to help you out? Gametime. Because they prioritize and they specialize in last minute deals where you can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. We all got different reasons why we have to wait till the last minute. Sometimes it's payday. Payday doesn't come until tomorrow, but you get paid at 6 o'clock the night before. Sometimes it's, well, I just had to wait. I didn't know if I was going to be able to get off. All of those things, you won't be punished. You won't be talked to funny. You won't be treated unfairly because Gametime actually is made just for you. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code. I'm going to spell it for you. LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, third and final segment here on Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day. I talked about all the guys that are injured. The only one that, they don't know when he's going to be back, and it'll be a number of weeks, is Dewey Wingard, who was having a really, really good camp. Deshaun Dixon got hurt and tore his ACL, and he's going to be out for the season. He was sitting there. I had him on the depth chart, the not for real depth chart that we talked about yesterday. He was sitting there as the backup to Josh Hines Allen. I always got to make sure I say that right. Josh Hines Allen. He was his backup on the depth chart. He was going to probably be the third or maybe the fourth defensive end in the rotation, with the third being Trevis Gibson, who they paid with a lot of experience. He's a little bit taller and longer than I thought too. He's 6'4", about 263. The other backup, the other alternative is if Eric Armstead is healthy, instead of playing him at 3 technique, if they needed to give Trayvon or Josh a break, they could always stick Armstead outside for a series or two. It's very, very similar to the way that they played with Calais Campbell. Armstead, if you watch some of his tape from last year with the 49ers and his career with the 49ers, he often would slide out to that big end position to take advantage of matchups and his size. So the Deshaun Dixon thing, it hurts because you see a kid from a small school busting it for 3 straight years, trying to get a breakthrough. He develops, and then he's finally healthy, and he's finally having a really, really good active camp in a system. And I know everybody's going to say, well, man, he ain't that important. In this system, he was doing a lot better. And this system is going to make a lot of players look a whole bunch better than they did last year. And he was one of them that was doing really, really well. And I was really, really happy for him. Now they have to fill that spot. They don't know if he's going to be on IR. We'll figure that out as we move along and we hear from the coaching staff. But this is an opportunity, I believe, for Miles Cole, the 7th round pick, who was chosen this year out of Texas Tech. 6'6", 275, 280 pounds, can really, really play, can move. He really, really does look the part. There was a reason why he was a 7th round pick. And so that probably means he ain't ready to really, really play right now. But he's another one that has opportunity. Opportunity is right there in front of him to do something really, really good and help himself on this team. There's a couple of other players. Rasheem Green, who was a veteran that they brought in. He's about the same size, 6'4", 280 pounds. He last played with Seattle. He's somebody that can give them something to look at. DJ Coleman is another one who's been there. He's a real tall player. Looks like a basketball player to me. 6'5", 263 pounds, second-year player out of Missouri. It's y'all going to have a chance because they're going to take Allen and they're going to take Walker out very, very early, I believe, in the first quarter. So now this is going to be time for those young guys, and you're going to see, because how they play defensively, this ain't about being vanilla. They're going to get right in your face, and they're going to run their defense the way they're going to run it. There's no other way you can do it on defense. Like on offense, you can call certain plays. They might not blitz as much, and they might not try as many stunts, but they are going to line up and come forward because that's just the nature of who they are, and that's just what they do. They're going to line up and they're going to come forward. So it's going to be an opportunity for a lot of people to show what have you been working on, how much have you retained, and those are some of the young guys that have an opportunity now, much like they did with Adrian Amos, who they brought in. I didn't really talk much about Adrian Amos because for me, Adrian Amos is probably not going to make the club, but he was a veteran body that they brought in late in camp. I think he kind of does the same things that Terrell Edmonds does, where he provides a little bit of thickness and physicality and run stopping ability to the secondary. I don't know if either one of those dudes going to make the team, so that's another thing that we can watch out for. Terrell Edmonds and Adrian Amos, watch both of those guys as they're out on the field to see exactly what they got going on and how much they're going to be able to help this ball club. It's going to be good to see Tyson Campbell out there. Y'all to get a chance to take a look at him. It's also going to be good that the Jaguars will, at the very least, have a team that pretty much resembles Miami in terms of their speed, their size, and the skill set of their wide receivers. And Miami is a week one opponent. This might be the closest thing they get to knowing exactly what that's going to look like because Miami's fast. Kansas City might be even faster at wide receiver than they are with all the speed that they have on the outside. So something to look forward to. The young players playing on defense. Get well soon to Deshaun Dixon, and hopefully, he can recover and make a go at it. And I hate to see when guys get hurt, especially when they're those types of players, even if it's the bottom of the roster. The Jaguars have said if you make the roster, you're a starter. So you hate to see it. We're going to do a game preview on tomorrow. And also I'll get those mailbag questions in. But I want the mailbag questions to be about the game and things that you hope to see. So I'll make sure I put that hashtag out so everyone can hit me up and we can get to it on tomorrow's Friday edition of Locked On Jaguars. And then, of course, we'll have a postcast as soon as the game ends on Saturday. Thank you for making Locked On Jaguars your first listen. Now go to listen. I want you to go listen to Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. Get daily insight to the best fantasy draft strategies so you can win your league this season. You can find the link to Locked On Fantasy Football in the descriptions so you don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And it'll be your team on tomorrow because tomorrow is considered every day. And that's when I'll see y'all next time here on Locked On Jaguars.